Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Zach Davidson. I'm the legislative aide for Councilmember Shannon Hardin in the Columbus City Council. Councilmember Hardin is chair of the Small and Minority Business Development Committee, which oversees special improvement district legislation. Our purpose tonight is to hear objections from property owners within the Capitol Crossroads Special Improvement District regarding the Transit Service Plan assessment. Our board is comprised of 3 community members, Zachary McGuire, Tanisha Hardin, and David Paul. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to thank Joshua Cox and Wendy Boots from the City Attorney's Office for being here. Mr. Cox will be providing our procedural guidance this evening. Mr. Cox, at this time, if you could swear in our board members.
Yes. Section 727.17 of the Ohio Revised Code requires that members of the Assessment Equalization Board appointed by City Council first take an oath to honestly and impartially discharge their duties. If the board members will please stand and raise their right hands, I will now administer that oath. Do you hereby accept your appointment as a member of this Assessment Equalization Board, and do you hereby swear or affirm that you will honestly and impartially discharge your duties as a member of this Assessment Equalization Board as set forth in the Ohio Revised Code to the best of your knowledge and ability? If so, please signify by stating "I do."
I do.
Thank you. Now, the board can proceed to select a chair to preside over the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. I will serve as chair.
Okay, we probably should just stick with some parliamentary procedure here. If someone will make a motion, second, and vote on it, that way.
All right, that's appropriate.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Dave Paul as the board chair.
Is there a second?
Yes, I second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand that the representative of the property owner is here to speak with us concerning the property and their objection. And I'm not sure, is that the person listed in the letter that we received? Okay. If I could ask then Mark Allison, and I may be mispronouncing that, I apologize. Could you join us? And should he go to the podium then? Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome. I brought some. Okay. Thank you.
My name is Mark Allison. I'm the president of the Columbus Athenaeum, which is the it's located in the former Masonic Temple at the corner of 4th and Gay Streets downtown. The building was constructed initially in 1896 by the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. It was substantially enlarged in 1914 and then again in 1934, and then nearly 100 years to the day from the initial groundbreaking, it was sold to a partnership, the Columbus Athenaeum LLC, which bought the building and attempted to save the structure by carrying on a reception and banquet business therein. I am the president of that and the only original partner remaining in ownership. At the time that we did the major renovation in 1997, we felt that we were not able to afford a renovation of the complete structure. It had fallen into significant disrepair over the years, and in particular, the masons had let their roof go. It got so bad, in fact, that in 1994, they actually put a new rubber roof on it, but not until after the upper floors throughout the building were substantially damaged, including fallen plaster, rusting lath, and the like. So we left those alone, and we did the kitchen in the basement, and then we substantially renovated the first, second, and parts of the third floors. The building is unusual in that when I say floor, I have to say that the floors don't exist in entirety across any one span of the building. It's actually the center and the bulkiest part of the building, the second of those two construction phases that I mentioned, have only 2 floors in them, actually. The first floor has a ceiling height in the ballroom of 26 feet, and on the third floor above that, the large theater has a ceiling height of 42 feet. So that's it in the building. So what you see outside and what I believe happened with the city, with the auditor's office, is that there was some derivation of square footage by taking the perimeter and then dividing by 5 or some other convenient divisor. But in effect, what we've done and what we showed to the general public is available for you on this chart. And this actually is on our website. It's what we hand out to any particular client, whether it be bridal, corporate, charitable, for the purpose of having a banquet. But these are what we maintain our square footages. The number that and by the way, the total here is about 36,500 square feet. If you add the figures in the next to last column, it says area. But I threw in some others in approaching the directorship of the SID last week. That would be Mr. Conti and Mr. Ricksecker. And we talked this over. I actually felt that the basement, the main basement, which is the next to last figure on this chart, should be included because that's really where we make our money, and that's our kitchens. So I added that in. As you can see, the figure that I derive from the basement main and the basement south when totaled to this other is 61,265. The figure on the right side excludes all the basement area, but again, even though that's not public space, I just don't feel that we could make it, and it's important to us commercially. And frankly, we're not trying to avoid our entire assessment. We just feel that because of the unique nature and layout of this building, we don't have what I've been searching around for a term to describe this, but I would call it employment density within our building. We have 15 employees there full-time every day. We provide all the parking necessary for all those employees on our premises, but nevertheless, we support the notion that we should contribute to the transit proposal. We just feel that because of the largely vacant nature of our building throughout the week, that the burden as derived is harshly applied to us. And that's all I have to offer. I suppose I would say that I did meet with Mr. Conti and Mr. Ricksecker last week, and we discussed this, and I would yield the floor to them should they wish to address you.
Does the board have questions at this time for the gentleman, or can we recall him later if we do after we speak with Mr. Conti? Okay. Let's proceed then and hear from Mr. Rexecker. Good to see you. Sir?
I apologize for my outfit. I just literally arrived 10 minutes ago from the Jersey Shore. Talia will appreciate that. So I'm glad I could make it back in time. We support the adjustment of the square footage for the Athenaeum. We actually support the adjustment to 44,565 square feet, not counting the basement. It's a unique property. And to put this in perspective, the typical office building will pay in the range of $10 to $12 per employee. The typical hotels will pay $40 to $50 per employee in the Transit Pass program. Because of the size of the building and the amount of the building is not being used, and the small staff, because most of Mark's staff is brought in temporarily for specific events, he would be paying well north of $100 per employee. It's the only building of its kind in the SID. It's the only building that's a standalone event center. It is completely, and given under the circumstances that much of the space is not even improved at this point, this is a very reasonable request that we support.
Obviously, this is not an adversarial procedure, and it seems like the parties have mostly come to an agreement. Let me pose a question to you to see, though, just to show I did my homework, for one thing, and also just to see if you agree. It did occur to me, though, that the Athenaeum will receive benefit from the transit assessment, perhaps because there will be parking spaces available for their patrons. Is that part of the thinking of including them in the first place, I assume?
A lot of the events take place in the evenings and weekends, when our only parking problem in downtown is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And so, there'll be some benefit for the guests of the Athenaeum, but for the most part, the events that take place there are not during the times when parking is unavailable.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
It sounds as if the parties have come to an equitable agreement. It sounds equitable to me. I don't know about if my co-members agree, but it sounds as if we do have some unanimity here that this sounds like a fair agreement between the parties. How should we proceed, Attorney Cox?
I think you still have a obligation to make a report to council. So I think if, and again, do this via motion, if it's the board's decision to accept what has been proposed and what the SID has agreed to simply make that your report based on the agreement between the SID and the property owner, accept the adjustment as proposed.
It occurs to me that we've heard from the objector that they would be willing to accept a reduction. I think that you were saying to 61,000 square feet, but we've heard from the SID director, he's willing to go as low as your lower number. Is that your understanding as well, then, the 44,000 square feet?
That's what they've said. My understanding, if I may.
I'm sorry. I should have called you to the podium again.
Honestly, I wasn't sure at the time of last week's meeting exactly what the formula was for the derivation of the square footage or the assessment. I mentioned at the time that our kitchens are all in the basement. Well, not all, I shouldn't say all. There's a smaller one on the first floor. Cleve said basements aren't included, but again, we don't want to avoid participating. So either of the two figures seems acceptable to me.
Okay, thank you.
If we count this is Cleve Rexecker again, if we count the basement, it would be the only basement in the SID being counted. Our own basement, for example, is where most of our employees work. It's not being counted. Our ambassador program is housed in our basement. So it's, to be fair, we should be treating the Athenaeum the same as every other property in the SID in that sense.
Okay. All right. Thank you again. So let me make a motion then that we, as the assessment, let me find our exact name again. Or perhaps Mr. Cox could save me some time. I apologize.
Yes, it's a mouthful. The Assessment Equalization Board.
Thank you. I kept thinking review, and I knew that wasn't right. That we, as the Assessment Equalization Board, find that the parties have negotiated an agreement that would reduce the square footage that would be included in the assessment. The rate, I'm assuming, to be unchanged of the assessment, but against the reduced square footage, and that we, as a body, find that to be appropriate and fair.
Yes, I'd like to second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
That's the way we like to do these hearings.
I'm sorry?
Efficient, to the point.
Okay.
So I think that's,
And let me thank then our, the objector, the manager has come to speak on behalf of the property, and of course, our colleagues at the Special Improvement District, so, and you as well.
thank you, Chair. And what will happen next is Mr. Davidson will prepare that communication to the clerk, and then the clerk will provide that to council, and then it's up to council to approve or disapprove the report of the board. In this case, I think that's an easy decision, but just so you know that the process, then this report goes to council.
Understood. All right. Do we make a motion then to adjourn? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.